Okay, so I work for the Damien Center, and again, I'm the vice president of donor relations there. And let me see if I can go to the next one. Um, so our mission is to be a trusted partner providing services, education, and advocacy for all people living with or at risk for HIV and any person seeking a safe and welcoming home for care. And we just celebrated our 35th anniversary. And the organization has changed quite a bit over the years. You know, when we started, it was, right at the beginning of the AIDS crisis, and we were really helping people die with dignity. In the LGBTQ community, really today, but back then for sure, people would tell their family about about their status, and maybe also come out at the same time. And many people were disowned, and they didn't have family around them, and a lot of times friends. And so the Damien Center was there to help them to ease their pain and also be with them, in those final months, weeks of their lives, and help them die with dignity. Today, we really help people live long, wonderful lives. And we do it, our secret is really our one-stop shop. So under one roof, we have lots of different services. We try to break down every barrier that we can that someone might have to get into treatment and be healthy. So we do have a clinic on site. We have a pharmacy where someone can get their medication right across the lobby from that clinic. But we also have things like housing, and I'm sure you probably all know, housing is so important to healthcare. Incredibly, housing is pretty much healthcare. It's so important to keeping someone healthy, but also food is too. So we have a food pantry on site, and we do give out the things that you are all putting together in this Amazon wish list. We'll give those out along with the food to folks. And a lot of times those things are very hard for someone to purchase or to find or to get. And we're able to, because of folks like you, to get those out to our clients, those important items. And then we also have case management. So we help people navigate and find resources for everything in Indianapolis and in this community and throughout Indiana, actually, as well. We have mental health counselors and substance use counselors as well. We have folks that help people navigate the system, but also get back into care. Find people transportation to get to the Damien Center or get to other doctor's appointments and things like that. We have also youth services to help folks, youth that are maybe at risk of getting in touch with the HIV virus, or LGBTQ youth as well. And we have a housing program for youth too at the Damien Center. So we have all of that, and some financial assistance as well for folks in case they run into an issue. Let's say they have a car payment that comes up, or car repair that they can't handle with their budget. But if we can get that car repair handled so they can get to work, then they can continue to be healthy and adherent to their medication and all that. So we try to find every single way that we can break down barriers so that people can be healthy. And then we also have our testing and prevention side of things as well. So we have a full testing center with awesome folks, and we'll talk a little bit about that later as well. A whole prevention side that helps people with PrEP, and we'll talk about PrEP here a little bit and what that is. And then we have harm reduction. We'll talk about what that is as well here coming up. So everything's under one roof for us, and we do all that. Really, because our community really needs that. If you can imagine all of those different things, if you had to go to different places for those, how taxing and how difficult that would be. So we break down all those barriers. It is interesting to know. Last year we served over 6,000 clients. And so that's through our prevention services, through our clinic, through our harm reduction services as well. We have a safe syringe program at the Damien Center too. And it's good to know also that our 89% of our clients struggle just to secure basic needs like housing, food, healthcare, mental health. So we're really out there a lot. Several of our clients are unhoused, and we work to get them housed, temporary and long-term stable housing as well. And then just sort of the picture of Central Indiana. So there are about 7,000 folks in Central Indiana living with HIV. We have about 250 new infections every year. And one of the important things to know is that we have about 1,000 folks that we think in Central Indiana that are HIV positive and don't actually know it. And that's where the testing part comes in. It's really important for people to know their status. And if you can imagine, stigma plays a big part in this as well. So we try to reduce stigma everywhere we can in the community in lots of different ways as well. And then we have about 2,000 folks that are HIV positive that are out of care right now. And we have a department that goes out, finds those folks, and finds out what their barriers are, and then we try to break those down so we can get them into treatment so they can live a healthy life as well. About 89% of our medical patients have achieved an undetectable viral load, and that's higher than sort of the average in Central Indiana. We retain about 73% of our clients, and then 95% of our patients were satisfied with their care. So we really think that this one-stop shop approach works for us, and really is the best model for our community and keeping people healthy and in care. And then I just want to mention, currently we are 26 North Arsenal on the Near East Side, and we are in a 15,000 square foot building, and we're in hallways and closets and all of that stuff. We're very much packed in. We do have an administrative office that we've on the sort of north side of Indianapolis that I work out of, that we just opened up just to sort of ease some of the space concerns as well. But the picture that you're looking at right now is what we are working towards. And we're actually breaking ground on this in a few days. But this will be our new headquarters right on Washington Street. It's Washington and Arsenal on the east side, and that's Oriental there on the west side. So we're very excited for that. That's a 56,000 square foot building that will allow us to serve even more clients, to really impact that 2,000 that I was talking about earlier, folks that are out of care, and really trying to find those 1,000 folks that don't know their status, because a lot of that is because of stigma or because of fear, and encouraging those folks to come in and find out what their status is. And then we'll increase our staff with that, and also other programs and services as well. We currently have started an employment service to help people with finding jobs, getting job training, getting their high school equivalency, those sorts of things as well, so we can get people into jobs, so that we can break down that barrier as well. And this is just a quick slide just about all of the additional folks we'll be able to serve in that new building. But I thought I would just mention the new building really quickly, because that is something that's coming up that we're very excited for, to be in there and to be able to serve the community even in a stronger way. And then just a little bit about prevention. We are definitely, we have a great testing department. So if you are, at a higher risk or are, sexually active, it's a good idea. The CDC recommends that everybody at least once, in their life gets tested for HIV. But for those of us that are sexually active and are in a high risk category, it's great to get tested even every 6 months and to make sure that your status through all of that. At the 26 North Arsenal, you can see the times that we have testing for that, and then we do have some Saturday times as well, a few times a month by appointment. You can do that on our website, and then we're also at the community at the cafe, Community Association of the Far East Side, and we do have a couple testing days out there as well to serve the East Side too. And then we do have, there's a medication called PrEP. It's a once-day prevention pill that folks can take, and it's 99% effective against HIV if someone comes in contact with the HIV virus. And then we also have teleprep options available as well. So, through the Damien Center, it's super easy. You can go online, never leave your home. You just, take a test, mail it in, then we mail you the medication. And so it's all done from your home. So we make it super easy, but you can also come into the Damien Center and get hooked up with that as well. And then there's also PEP for anyone that may have been exposed to HIV. And it's the post-exposure prophylactic, and that's available as well. So if someone has come in contact with HIV, they can get that taken care of if it was a single event for that. And then we also provide harm reduction services. We at the Damien Center, we just really believe that we want to make these sort of high risk situations just reduce the harm. We have a safe syringe program, like I said before, at the Damien Center. We have harm reduction kits, that include chapstick and alcohol pads and lots of different things in order to keep people as safe as they can be if in these situations as well. And we just want to be there for folks for that as well. Then we also provide naloxone for folks as well. And we've had lots of actual reversals with naloxone in the community as well over the past year or so. So we know that that's working as well. And so that was my short presentation. Hopefully I didn't take up too much time, but thank you so much. I just want to thank you again. I am here to answer any questions if we've got time. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. I've also provided my email address here too. Always happy if anybody reaches out to connect you with someone for more information or to answer questions. I'm always happy to do that as well.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, let's actually, if anyone in the chat has any questions for Stephen, please post them down in the chat. We do have one. Do you have a targeted open date for the new facility?
We do. So we are looking probably at November of 2024. So relatively speaking, it'll be a pretty short amount of time to build that big building. So that's what we're looking at now. I mean, there could be construction delays, but that's what we've been told from the construction folks.
Thank you so much, Stephen. I could not, express how grateful we are for this collaboration and how meaningful it is to us as Satanists, because there's a lot of stigma surrounding Satanism. And a lot of our folks are in the LGBTQ community, and a lot of them may be facing issues very similar to what you mentioned. So
yes, for sure. And, I appreciate everything that you all do. We just on a personal level, we're donors to the national and, me and my husband. And so we're very grateful for everything that you all do out there.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. So hail Stephen and hail the Damien Center. So we're just about ready to move into our sex positivity panel. So Sex is still wrapped in taboo and cultural expectations. Of course, unfortunately, everyone knows that. We do hope this panel will get us thinking about how we can break those barriers. However, I will be asking some frisky and steamy questions, and our panel will give their unique thoughts. So, with that in mind, please keep this in mind before we start. We are going to be talking about sex, toys, orgasms, kinky shit. If at any point you feel uncomfortable, you are more than welcome to exit the Zoom call. Consent is mandatory in these spaces, and we want you all to have a positive experience. So if perhaps talking about sex isn't your jam, you're more than welcome to head out. So also, please no kink shaming in the comments. It's rude and will instantly get you booted from the call. I'm going to briefly introduce my panel, and then we will have some poetry by one of our congregants. We are joined by our congregation head, Riley, assistant to the congregation head, Nate, assistant to the archivist, Nick, and satanic poet and blasphemous extraordinaire, Cher. Cher will be sharing a piece of their infernal poetry with us. So, without further ado, Cher, please grace us with your powerful words.
Well, thanks for the introduction. You should do the introduction of my next poetry book. Shit. All right. Well, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Cher, congregation member, apparently poet extraordinaire. And now I've been asked to open up the panel with this piece. This is called Passion's Bliss. Let's embrace each other. Let's dig a groove. Let's stand above the stars and moon. Let's make each other sway and swoon. Our desire is the only thing we have to prove. Who gives a fuck if the evangelists don't approve? Let's indulge in sins of the flesh, strike it hot while the desire is still fresh. Shame the devil with our passionate moves. A toast to the delicious life. I shall drink of you and you of me. Our libations flow rife for all the world to see. Our embrace erases all our strife as we eat the fruit of the forbidden tree. Thank you.
Hail fucking Satan to that. Awesome. All right. Fantastic. So, folks, let's dive deep, into it. As I mentioned before, I was talking to my panel earlier. I'm going to ask questions in the panel. You'll use your raise hand functions if you have an answer. Folks who are in the audience, you are free to listen. We hope this discussion will get you thinking. We hope it'll make you feel a little bit more comfortable about thinking and listening and talking about sex in general. So we hope it's an overall good experience. All right, so I introduced you guys very briefly, but I would like for you all to go around and introduce yourselves. So everyone who is on my panel, please go ahead and use the raise hand functions, and I'll just call you in a random order. So please introduce yourselves and your pronouns. All right, Nate.
Hello, I'm Nate Hay. I go by he, him. I love sex and I love charity, so I figured I'd join here tonight.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nate. Riley.
Hi, my name is Riley Phoebus. I use they, them pronouns. I am the congregation head for the Satanic Temple, Indiana. I also work with a lot of couples and a lot of love and self-love and dedication as project manager for satanic ceremonies.
Thank you, Riley. Nick.
Hey guys, I'm Nick. I go by he, him. I am the assistant to the archivist. I've been on a journey for self-acceptance towards sex for about the past 6 or 7 years, and have changed my point of view on a lot of things and just accepted a lot of things about myself and others. And so that's why I'm here.
That's the whole point of this panel and this event. We hope for that as well. Sherry, you kind of introduced yourself when you gave your poem, but do you want to go ahead and do it again?
Yeah, why not? I'm Cher, they, them. Obviously, a member of the TST congregation, and I'm really here because Zoe invited me. I was invited to do poetry and talk about fucking. I'm like, yeah, I got next Wednesday evening free.
Hell yes. We love that. Awesome. So this is our panel, and speaking about fucking, let's start with our first question. So, how do you handle situations in which talking about sex may be awkward?
Oh, I try to just be direct about any awkward situations when it comes to sex. Sometimes I'll use humor when it's appropriate, but it is also super important to be respectful. And for me, I like to make myself vulnerable a little bit. I like to relate experiences I've had and how I felt about those experiences. I've also dealt with a lot of shame when I was a child. I started exploring things and sort of knew what I desired, and my mom was like, "That's not okay to like those things. You need to be a strong man. You need to present yourself as a man," and what she considered to be a man. And that sex was just for procreation. It wasn't, for pleasure or anything like that. So I try to relate those experiences as much as possible.
Me, I've always been kind of open. Um, I've kind of been vocally open about sex always. It's never really been awkward for me, like, and especially when it's with uh, you know, a different crowd where sex would seem taboo. Um, I try to make it as acceptable and a positive way of thinking about, like, whatever somebody's comfortable with. You know, I'm cool to talk about as far as you want to take it, I suppose.
Um, it's for me, it's been like anything else. I always approach it with a sense of humor. Gets me in trouble sometimes, but as Millie, my beloved, has pointed out often, she's marrying Rodney Dangerfield in a dress. So, I said, I've approached it often with a lot of humor. For me, a lot of it was just taking the time to be comfortable with myself. I'm probably the last of those who waited till they were in college, to come out sexually and be willing to explore all that. So it took a little while, but as I've been able to come to my own and explore the things that I'm interested in, it has made it a lot more comfortable. It's just that first conversation, that first realization, so to speak, is always the most awkward.
I could give my own answer to the question. So usually if it's with my partner, well, I kind of did earlier, but I'll expound on it a little bit. I had the hardest time explaining specific role play or kink scenarios that I was really into because I would get flustered verbally explaining it. So that became very awkward, trying to explain to somebody, what you want to do in the bedroom and not being able to do it, being too verbally flustered to do it. So the solution we came to is that we write it down and we share it with each other, and it works. So our second question is, do you still struggle with guilt when it comes to discussing sex in general? So this could be with anyone in an academic setting, in a setting like this. Do you have guilt? Do you have embarrassment with your partner, with, your parents, with anyone else? What do you feel? Why or why not? I'll go ahead and give my answer. Yes, often I get flustered and embarrassed easily. I've become better at it though, I think, maybe. Nick.
I tend not to feel guilty or struggle with guilt when it comes to sex anymore, especially talking about it. My girlfriend and I talk about fantasies, um, not like all the time, but fairly regularly, and we talk about boundaries and stuff like that. When I was younger, I was really excited to find my sexual side of myself. And when I was 17, I was with someone and kind of got confused about what was okay and what was expected of me and what was appropriate. So I really shut that down, and it was really embarrassing for me to want to talk about kink and stuff like that, because some kink can be embarrassing to talk about in around people that you don't know super well. But these past few years, I've just really learned to accept myself, and that what I like is okay as long as everything is consensual. So yeah, it's not really embarrassing to me anymore. I mean, that's why I'm also able to talk about it like this right now, because it's just not embarrassing.
That's fantastic. I'm so glad you found the non-embarrassment aspect of it. I feel like that's super empowering. Riley.
Okay, so for those of you that know me might find it shocking, I wore a purity ring till I was like 16. And for a couple years, I wore it even after I had been sexually active. And it was this super, super weird thing because I felt this insane Christian guilt, this insane Abrahamic and religious indoctrination guilt, but didn't take it off and continued doing what I was doing. So I lived in this like kind of in between for a while. And I'm obviously way past that. Fuck that. Love carnal pleasure. Fuck my purity ring. But I have those times where that shit was so deeply ingrained in me that it pops up in my head. And not just when I'm experiencing sexual pleasure, but just throughout the day, it pops up in my head, and I'm like, just kind of shocked by how much I denied myself in my younger adult years, and just how I may have been shaped different if I didn't have the indoctrination. So whether or not that guilt doesn't still shape me, but I think it's played a part in the way I view sex forever, because it was placed upon me for so long that it was a guilty thing.
Thank you, Riley. Share.
To kind of piggyback on what Riley was talking about, I think that not all of us, but a lot of us still carry kind of the guilts and hangups from our childhood. I was raised in the church. My father was born and raised in North Carolina, so I don't want to say Southern purity, but some things just were not discussed. And of course, growing up in Indiana public schools, which at the time, it was straight abstinence only. If you fuck, green stuff's going to shoot out of your crotch, and your dick's going to fall off. And as open as I consider myself now, I mean, obviously, I'm a member of Transylvanian Lip Treatment. We do Rocky Horror, which is an extremely sexual show, which I have to admit did a lot to liberate my own personal hangups. I still have that little bit of guilt that was, pounded into my skull, and I'm sure I'll spend the rest of my life trying to exercise it, if I can make a little pun. For the rest of my life, because it's still there, even though I have done everything to, get rid of it, bury it. It's still going to pop up, there's still that guilt that's pounded into our heads as children.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think that speaks especially to people who may have had some kind of religious or traumatic religious upbringing. Cool. So our next question is a little bit juicy. What would constitute quote unquote perfect sex for you?
So perfect sex for me is kind of every time, I have to say. I mean, not every time, but most times, because it's about the timing. It's about your current mood. It just hits right. You know, we might have done this a couple weeks ago that was super hot and exciting, but we don't have to do that. Like, sometimes it's perfect, even if it's a long escapade type thing, or it might hit perfect if it's a quickie, and it just helps relieve tension and you just feel better. Like, it was a good one. Like, yes, high five. Like, that one had me going, like, it depends. Perfect sex should be, in my opinion, every time.
I like to do a lot of prep work first when it comes to what perfect sex is like. Um, being into kink, consent is really big. But finding out like my current girlfriend, what she has expected for the situation. For me, it would include impact play and primal play, probably, maybe some wrestling or something like that, or some restraints. But there's a lot of prep work that comes into all of that. So for me, it's a lot of the build up to the actual time to do the act.
Um, for me, the best sex has always been spontaneous. I've tried to plan it. Every time I try to plan it out, it always backfires one way or another. So I found that for me, perfect sex, in a lot of ways, is like, writing good poetry. If I try to write poetry, if I just sit at the typewriter and try to write it, that's when it doesn't come. But you just have that one flash of inspiration that just boils in you. You got to get it out, else you're going to go absolutely batshit, And it's the same with sex. When it's spontaneous in the moment, that one perfect heated moment of passion. That's what brings it for me.
I love that. So I think regardless on the level I know the person, it plays a different role, whether it's someone that I'm in an intimate, recurring long-term relationship with, or a one-night stand, or whatever it is. Any kind of environment of trust, communication, and vulnerability, like regardless if that's the kinkiest sex and I'm getting my shit rocked, or we're like cuddle fucking, any place that I feel comfortable is like the perfect sex for me.
Awesome. Love that. So, our next question is, what is a random, unique thing that you find sexy in people? And I'll answer this. I love men's back and shoulders, that perfect masculine square shape between the shoulder blades. So deliciously sexy.
So for me, it's when they're nervous around me. Anytime I go on a first date, if I notice that the person that I'm with is more nervous than me, then it shoots me through the roof. My girlfriend's flipping me off right now because she was so nervous when we first got together. And it just was such a huge turn on for me. I don't know why, I can't explain it, but it's like the more nervous you are, the more I'm like, that's sexy as fuck.
I'm going to quote the great John Waters here. If you go home with somebody and they don't have books, don't fuck them. I'm serious, if, like, Nate's like, hell yeah. No, I'm serious, for me, if I'm with somebody and they have an impassioned interest in literature, music, the arts, that is an instant turn on for me.
I really like just expression in people's eyes, that feeling like they exude, I'm being genuine. You can kind of read people in their eyes, and when they're feeling it and when they're not, or at least I can, where they're feeling it or they're not feeling it. It's, you can and on top of that, when somebody is androgynous and they embody that shit, and that's part of that twinkle in the eye, that's sexy. That's very sexy.
Okay, so I'd split it into physically and conceptually. Conceptually, I said eye contact. Like immediately, that first eye contact I make with you, if that does something in my hormones, whatever, it's over. I'm set, I'm done, etc. I'm there. And that follows into sex. Like if I'm fucking someone and there's intense eye contact, I'm super into that. Physically, I love people with very interesting noses. I think like every time someone has a good nose, I'm like, fuck yeah, I like that. I feel like I like weird traits, like shit that's not normal, shit that like maybe people are even insecure about. I will never forget being like 18 years old and super insecure about like my stretch marks and shit. And this one girl on Molly at this like spring break in Florida type thing being like, oh my God, I love your stretch marks. That's like my biggest turn on. And that like stuck with me forever. And I was like, the thing that you're most insecure about could be someone's biggest turn on and like get someone riled up. And when I think about how I find people attractive, like those individualistic traits that I find attractive about that person specifically tends to be things that they may be insecure about. So I think just loving people for everything they don't love themselves for is hot as fuck.
That's awesome. Thank you, Riley. I had a very similar experience where I've always been insecure about my weight. And my fiance he loves me. I'll just say that. Awesome. So our next question is, what toys are you interested in but nervous about trying? For me, it's mostly more complex BDSM gear, like leather stuff, hood stuff. I'm either too lazy or too cheap to really invest in anything. So,
One thing I've been interested in, I've had friends tell me they've had some incredible experiences with them. I've had the stones to try myself. I look at it when Millie and I are at the what I call the stag shop. But the what do you call it? The anal play stuff, the butt plugs. And I had a friend of mine, he had one that vibrated. He swore by it, said it was the best orgasm he ever had. And I don't know. That's one I haven't really quite stepped across that one yet. I mean, it's on the list.
awesome. Yeah, I could definitely agree to that. I've been curious about that stuff myself.
So I am really interested in shibari, but it scares me because some of these ropes and knots are super complicated, and I worry about safety a lot because, like, if you know what shibari is, it's beautifully designed rope, and you can make some really cool designs, and then you suspend people sometimes. And that is something I'm afraid to do because if you don't do it correctly, someone could lose a fucking limb, and that's not cool. Like, pain is cool, but not unintentionally losing like an arm or a leg. So I read a lot and I read a lot, but when it comes time to like do stuff like that, that's one of the few things that I'm still super nervous about because of the implications behind it.
I have to talk about anal as well. So my like number one joke, for those of you that don't know me, I used to do stand-up comedy, is being a big titty goth girlfriend that doesn't do anal because people automatically assume that stereotype of me. That shit scares the fuck out of me. It scares the shit out of me, if you will. And I am warming up to it myself, and it's something that I would love to experiment myself, but I've found a lot of empowerment playing with my partners with it. my current partner is into butt plugs, like while doming, which is an interesting kind of concept. Like I'm used to, like, if I'm like playing with someone anally, like I'm doming them, I'm topping them. But to have someone being anally stimulated while topping you is like a little bit mind-blowing. I'm like, oh fuck, okay, we're fucking all gender roles. We're, who gives a fuck? We're not even just switching them, we're tearing them apart at the seams. So that's been incredible. But that's something that one day I would like to experiment with someone that I trust, many years down the road.
Yeah, you know, that is interesting. I think the expectation is often that the person penetrating shouldn't be penetrated, which is strange. So yeah, very cool. Our next question is there anywhere you've thought about having sex besides the bedroom? I immediately see Cher's hand go up.
I'm sorry. Well, I'll actually answer this question with a bit of a story. This is a true story. Now those of you who know me fairly well, you know I love an audience. And I did a poetry gig. This was, well, it was before Millie and I got together, so it has to have been 8-9 years ago. Anyway, I did the show nude, right? Which, by the way, given Indiana obscenity laws, was extremely difficult to work out, but hey, we figured it out. Anyway, so I did the show nude, and the guy who opened the show, you know, I had an opening act. Halfway through my set, he came up and blew me. And it was the strangest and probably most exciting orgasm I have ever had. So, you know, if I could do it on stage again, I'd go for it.
That's fucking awesome. I love the statement of the strangest and most exciting orgasm I've ever had. That must have been one hell of an experience.
So kind of along the same lines, I'm not exactly, but I'm kind of an exhibitionist slash kind of a voyeur myself. There's not really anywhere I haven't had sex in public, in the wilderness, in front of crowds, in every room of our house, your house, their house, whatever. Yeah, there's not many places I haven't. I don't know, maybe like at a specific site somewhere that I would have to, like the Eiffel Tower or something. That'd be cool. Or in Salem at the headquarters. That'd be cool. To have sex there would be cool.
So I think about having sex in weird places a lot. One place that I secretly have never told anyone about, so this is like a first time me talking about it out loud, is the middle of the woods where someone is potentially watching you. You don't know if they're watching, but maybe they are watching. And it just, that to me sounds mind-blowingly fun. It's part exhibitionist, a little bit voyeur, which is something I'm into. And it just, there's something about being in the middle of the woods, it's a little rainy, and you're fucking your partner on a stump or something crazy like that. It just, that's what it is for me.
Okay, I have to call to share his comment in the chat because it won't come up on the recording, but quote, is the panel mostly exhibitionist, unquote? Made me fucking lose my shit. And the answer is yes.
Yeah, apparently we are.
Dude, I'm a shameless stage junkie. What can I say?
Exactly. I have two that I haven't, and I've done a lot. I love fucking in the woods. I love fucking on top of a mountain, like viewing the valley and a whole fucking cityscape, whatever. I have two that I haven't done. One, if any of you've been to my place or lunch with Lucifer or whatever, there's a church right next to my house. have taken lewd photos, risque photos in front of it. But they just recently in the last 6 months painted it hot pink. If you haven't been yet, it's gorgeous and I would love to fuck in that church. And also my second one, and if you're my boss watching this, I didn't say this, but at the gallery, I'm a fuck on Baphomet, right? Okay. I'm gonna, it's 2023 bucket list. So my partner's gonna high five me right now. We're doing it. So yes.
So we are over time. We're going to go until 8:15. So I'm going to shave down my list of questions here and I'm going to pick out the spiciest ones. So our next question is, what are 3 words that describe your favorite kind of sex? And mine are kinky, cinnamon, and feral. Grr.
I'm just sticking my hand up there real quick, aren't I? Jeez. So for me, the 3 words that describe my favorite kind of sex are primal, intense, and long.
Intimate, present, playful. Not long.
Dirty, passionate, new.
Spontaneous, poetic, and a release.
Perfect. I love how we all have very different sexual styles. So our next question is, share something you were once afraid of trying but ended up loving. I'll answer the question. My partner and I did a role play that I had dreamed up and wanted to do for a long time. We played it out and it was super fun and we could not stop talking about it for days afterwards. And we had a really great time. And I was afraid because of course I was embarrassed to talk about my kinks, but I got over it. We did it and we had a fucking blast. No pun intended.
So I used to be afraid of wrestling or tickle play, but I absolutely love it. I was afraid of hurting someone because I'm a bigger guy and I'm strong. I've learned how far I can go with my partner, and it's honestly the quickest way to get me in the mood. Like sometimes we'll just be horsing around on the couch and like she will do something like I don't like my nipples to be stimulated, so she will do that. And I feel like sometimes she does it because she knows I'm going to grab her wrist and then we're going to start wrestling a little bit, and it gets out of hand from there. In a good way, in a good way.
2 quick things. Number 1, the first time I had sex with multiple people, had that experience in college. You know, I've done a 3-way, 4-way. I think the most we ever had in the bed at one time was 6. Didn't think I'd be into it, but ended up 666. That's right. I don't think there's a bed big enough to hold that many people. Shit. I'd go for it though. You know, it was one of those. I didn't know if I'd like it. You know, once again, it was kind of a spontaneous moment. They said, "Hey, man, you want to jump in?" I'm, fuck yeah, why not? I'd do anything. And the other thing that I surprisingly enjoyed was the use of food in a sexual experience. Once again, this goes back to my college days where I became the kinky sick fuck that you all love. I had a couple friends over and we ended up ordering pizza from Domino's because I don't know, we had $20 and hell, when you're in college and you have a 20, you're rich. And it came with those free brownie bites. I don't know if you guys remember the brownie bites from Domino's. It had the chocolate dipping sauce. And one thing led to another. And one of the people there ended up licking chocolate sauce off my cock. And it was pretty cool. Like, you know, for once, I didn't have anybody complain about the taste of my discharge, but you know, it was a good time.
So I've always tried anything and everything that I wanted to, just because I'm the type of person that I'll try anything once, and if I don't like it, I won't do it again. So I've never really have been nervous or really afraid of trying anything that I haven't tried. There's some things that I haven't liked that I don't do or put into my regular tool bag of tricks, I guess.
My very simple answer was exploring my sexuality through many years, outside of any internally preconceived labels or identities. There's been many people that I've had incredible experiences with that I would have previously closed myself off to, that ended up being wonderful moments for me. So I think it's important to continue to explore yourself even when you're confident inside yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Riley. Awesome. So this is our second to our last question, and it is, how has Satanism helped you live a sex positive life?
Well, of course, when I first discovered Satanism, this was in the time before the temple. You basically had LaVey, and reading the Satanic Bible, it was the first religious text I had read that said, as long as all people involved are consenting adults, have at it. And that was such a liberating concept, especially somebody like me who grew up in a conservative Protestant church, to have a religious text say, enjoy yourself, up to and including masturbation. There's a lot of stigma, religious stigma attached to jerking off. Although I love that quote from Jocelyn Elder's former Surgeon General. She said one time in an interview, when you masturbate, at least you're having sex with somebody you love. So, but just having that door opened, I like Nate, was like, I don't know. But just having that door opened from a religious and philosophical context was very liberating, I thought. And of course, I obviously ended up joining the temple and, finding, especially on a panel like this, being extremely not only sex positive, but us willing to talk about this in an open and comfortable manner, extremely liberating from a satanic point of view.
Well, to me, Satanism is really about liberation. So it absolutely has helped me accept myself and who I am sexually. You accept yourself and others sexually and what sort of sex they like. So why should you hate on someone for wanting to do something? It's not hurting you. It doesn't even involve you most of the time. And for me, our Satanism is all about that. It's about the compassion and accepting people for who they are. So it absolutely has helped me with that.
Okay, first of all, want to recognize the chat with Nate's wife saying who else is fucking immediately after this. Love all of that shit so much. Thank you all for fucking. But I want to say that I have been part of TST since I've been a congregation member since I was 19 years old, which is kind of a little bit crazy to think about. And I joined the congregation in a monogamous marriage after practicing polyamory for many years. Got divorced, practiced polyamory for many years, and then now years later practicing monogamy. And I have not felt as much comfort and acceptance in any community going back and forth and kind of just figuring my shit out as I have in this community. It's also fucking opened my goddamn mind to many communities that I would not necessarily push away, but negate for my own cognizance, especially in my roles in leadership. I feel like I've been part of TST for so long that it's shaped my entire adulthood, but I am extremely grateful for all the people it's introduced me to and all the people that it's allowed me to express myself to, because out of all the things I've gone back and forth from and willy-wallied on since I was like a late teenager, I've never felt unaccepted. I've always felt accepted. I've always felt loved and held and at least seen in some aspect of temple Satanism. So I would say that Satanism has played a role in my love life, my sex life, and my self-love life in a way that I feel comfortable exploring who I am and questioning who I am and wandering who I am and evolving who I am in a way that doesn't make me feel shit for doing so, in a way that encourages that. So I feel great who I am right now, and I am very confident that if that evolves and changes as it will, that TST and my congregation will support that and inspire that. So that's the impact that Satanism has had on my sexuality. And I love these bitches so much. And you know that.
Hail fucking Satan to that.
The Satanism, initially, like me embracing it was like a epiphany in every aspect, including my sexuality, and trying to be more open and honest with myself throughout everything in every aspect of my life. And so it helped me embrace mine, and obviously my wife finding Satanism and coming into it herself. So the compatible, like, it works. You being you and me being me fully in a satanic level, like, it's great. Yeah.
Hell yes. Love that. I feel like we could chat about this all night. Unfortunately, I do have to wrap it up. I got work super early in the morning. But let's go around and share our final thoughts if anyone has any to share. Share.
Yeah, share's gonna share. There we go. Very poetic way to end it, Zoe. No, I just wanted to thank fellow members of the panel. This was a wonderful event. I hope we do something like this again. And I know he's already signed off, but I'd also like to thank Stephen and the Damien Center. They do a lot of great work in the Indianapolis community. And it was, for me anyway, a satanic honor to share the stage with him. Yeah, hopefully we can do this again.
Okay, Zoe killed this shit. Zoe launched this shit to me, or like pitched this shit to me, and I was so like burnout congregation. I was like, bitch, do whatever you want. Da, da, da. I don't care, make it happen. This is all Zoe. Okay, first and foremost, incredible. Like, I'm just honored to be a panelist talking about this important topic, and I was honored to be a panelist on this last Valentine's Day, Temple Tuesday that Zoe led. So this bitch killed it. I love the fuck out of it. Has inspired me satanically, sexually, professionally, etc. Absolutely taken over, and for the billionth time in my satanic backbone. So we can do all this all the time if Zoe runs it.
Thank you, Riley. It's an honor. It's definitely an event that's close to my heart. I have an uncle that has AIDS, so it's a meaningful event that we, get out and support organizations like this. I think it's so important.
I just want to say thanks for doing this. I appreciate the chance to come out and talk to everyone about this stuff, because you don't get to talk about too many people about this. So it's really great that everyone was willing to do this together. I would also like to say, please love yourselves, because no one's going to love you like you can love yourself. And fucking hail Satan.
Okay, RuPaul.
Right?
Hail Satan.
Hail Satan. Awesome, you guys. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I think that went off without a hitch. That was fantastic. To the new folks who are in here, thank you so much for joining us. If you are interested in membership, our membership requirements are 2 virtual events, so this counts as 1, and 1 in-person event. So after you attend your events, you go to our website under the membership tab and you fill out a Google form. And after that, someone from our leadership council will contact you to set up an interview. It's a very chill interview. It's more like a discussion. We just talk about who you are, your experience with Satanism, blah, 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 all that good shit. And then we pretty much go from there. So yes, thank you guys all so much. That was really awesome. I hope we continue to break down barriers because that's what we do. You know, we're fucking Satanists. And yeah, if you can donate, please donate. The Damien Center does amazing, incredible work.